Who is Tommy DeVito, aka Tommy Cutlets? Tommy DeVito shocked the world on Monday Night Football, rushing for 70 yards and a touchdown and triumphantly leading a game-winning drive in the final moments to beat the red-hot Packers and somehow keep the Giants alive for a playoff spot in the NFC. In just a month, DeVito has gone from an undrafted nobody to the most famous Italian-American since Tony Soprano. His family comes to all of his games. He lives with his parents. His celebration is the pinched Italian fingers, and his agent looks like one of the henchmen from The Godfather. It's awesome. As an Italian-American myself, I can say without a doubt that this is our version of Linsanity. But this ain't going anywhere anytime soon. I'll be honest though, I didn't know who Tommy DeVito was 6 weeks ago. Did any of you? Hell no. Unless you're a diehard Giants fan or a fan of mediocre ACC football. And that's why we're going balls deep dish on Tommy DeVito, the future of the New York Football Giants and probably the next governor of New Jersey, and if we're lucky, the first Italian-American presidente. If you are pro-Italian, please subscribe to this YouTube channel. Today's episode is sponsored by Underdog Fantasy. Now, Underdog has added scorchers to their pick'em contests. If you see that little tiny pepper next to a player's stat, that's a scorcher pick. Add those to your normal pick'em entries to boost your payouts. Now, that's a spicy meatball. Your normal max is 20xing your deposit. Depending on how many scorchers you add, you can up to 100x your money. And they've also added Pick'em Champions, which is now live in Alabama, Tennessee, Wyoming, and Mississippi. Players create a pick'em entry like usual, so you pick 2 to 5 players from at least 2 teams, select your entry amount, and submit. It's simple. If you get the most correct picks in your contest, you win your share of the champion's prize. So sign up at Underdog with my link below, code THATSGOOD, and make your first deposit, which they will match up to $100. Now, for an NFL quarterback, their worst nightmare, and their worst nightmare is waking up one day and having an arm that only can throw ducks. That's no fear for an Italian QB. They have a different nightmare involving ducks.
In your worst dreams, a duck flies off with your penis.
Now, let's start this story back in high school, where Tommy DeVito may or may not have had the makings of a varsity athlete. DeVito hails from Don Bosco High School in Cedar Grove, New Jersey, because of course his high school was called Don Bosco.
You Don the jeweler.
Where I'm pretty sure they offered an entire class on Fugazi.
Yeah, I know what a Fugazi is.
Last week I made a video about Jake Browning and talked about how eye-popping his high school stats were, but DeVito threw just 34 TDs in his final 2 years, and most of his offers were northeastern schools like Rutgers, Yale, Boston College, and finally Syracuse, where he ended up in 2018. The only way this story could get more Italian is if he did indeed go to Rutgers, where they played the Sopranos theme on the video screen at home games.
Got some gabagoo.
Now, DeVito didn't get a ton of action as a redshirt freshman, but he did enter a game in relief of starter Eric Dungey and led a double overtime win against North Carolina, throwing 3 touchdowns in the victory, which I think shows early evidence of the clutch gene, a gene no doctor can identify, but one we know when we see. Also evidence medical school is a waste of money. Eric Dungey, by the way, spent time on the Giants and Bengals practice squads. Overall, though, DeVito was never the established starter at Syracuse, either due to injuries or simply getting leapfrogged on the depth chart. His career high in TD passes was just 19 his sophomore year when the Orange went 4-7. Basically the record most teams would have if Kenny Pickett were their QB this season. By the time he transferred to Illinois in 2022, he was entering his 6th season in college at age 24.
You know, a lot of people go to college for 7 years.
I know. They're called doctors.
Just for fun, I want to name a few quarterbacks that are younger than Tommy DeVito. Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, and Trevor Lawrence. All in their third years in the NFL, younger than DeVito, despite both being rookies. Anthony Richardson is 4 years younger than DeVito. Hell, Jordan Love, who he just beat on Monday Night Football, is actually 3 months younger than Tommy D, despite being in his 4th NFL season. DeVito did finally have a winning record his lone year at Illinois, and he actually filed a waiver to play a 7th year, but was denied by the NCAA. When the draft rolled around, DeVito had an outside shot at becoming a late day 3 pick, perhaps in the mold of one Brock Purdy, if Purdy was spelled with 2 I's instead of a fucking Y, but he ended up going undrafted and signed with the Giants. And why did he go undrafted?
Because they're stupid, that's why. And jealous.
And why did he sign with the Giants? Easy access to gabagool and cutlets, I guess.
Gabagool? Over here.
Also, his house is a 12-minute drive from the Meadowlands. We might not all root for the same team, but we can all agree traffic blows. Now, in an ESPN article from November, DeVito famously said, "I don't have to worry about laundry, what I'm eating for dinner, chicken cutlets, and all that is waiting for me when I get there. My mom still makes my bed. Everything is handled for me. Honestly, I don't even know if I could find a place closer to here than where I live." Most of his teammates didn't even know that Tommy Cutlets lived at home until later in the season, but he already had some of the receivers like Wan'Dale Robinson and Jalen Hyatt over for dinner at the family home, which I think is a sign of leadership. I'm not sure there are a lot of third-string QBs out there doing that. Now, I was able to go on Google Maps and actually locate their house, and this is what it looks like. Pretty nice, huh? Of course, DeVito didn't start until a few months into the season. Back in August, though, he wasn't even a lock to make the roster, but he ended up impressing Giants coaches in his preseason debut, throwing for 155 yards and a touchdown to tight end Tommy Sweeney, who, believe it or not, was his teammate back at Don Bosco High. Finally proof that Italians and Irish can live in harmony, as long as they have the same first name.
It's not a good idea to look at Tommy Shelby the wrong way.
Why don't you go fuck yourself, Tommy?
How's that, all right?
DeVito got stashed on the practice squad, and he finally touched the field for the first time on October 29th, my very Italian birthday, against the Jets.
Put me in, coach.
One of the worst games anyone has had to endure this season, and that is saying a lot because some of the games this year have been god-awful. And he wasn't particularly good in his first action, completing just 2 of his 7 passes for a grand total of, -1 yard. But he did show off the wheels just a little bit on this 6-yard TD run. Now remember, the reason DeVito got the gig was because both Daniel Jones and Tyrod Taylor were injured. Taylor was playing all right, had a nice game and a win against the Commanders before injuring his ribs, or as Tommy calls them, his 6th favorite meat behind 5 variations of cutlets. Taylor was activated off IR before the Packers game, but Dable named DeVito the starter anyway. Here's the thing about DeVito that I think is really encouraging. He seems to get better every week. He threw his first touchdown pass in a blowout loss against the Raiders. He threw 2 more in another resounding loss to the Cowboys. And he finally got a win against the Commanders, who the Giants swept this season, throwing for 3 TDs and 0 interceptions despite absorbing 9 sacks. And these were not all easy passes. I don't think anyone on the Giants has ever thrown an easy pass, actually. His touchdown to Saquon Barkley had just a 24% completion probability, but he laid it right where it had to be. Smoother than olive oil, baby. His sacks taken also went from 5 to 9 to 6 to 0 against Green Bay, who had just dropped Patty Mahomes 3 times in the previous game. And in the last 3 wins, DeVito has boasted a passer rating above 100, making him the first undrafted rookie QB to accomplish that in 3 straight games. That's as rare as finding a woman who encourages your weirdest kink.
You let him hold a gun to your head during sex?
My kink, my weird kink is just the woman pretending to be satisfied. Now, DeVito has stacked 3 wins in a row, dragging the Giants back into relevancy. They were talking about getting the #1 overall pick, and now they're 1 game out of the wild card spot in the dumb NFC. A remarkable turnaround.
Just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in.
Now, DeVito's not a perfect QB, but he's fun to watch, and he's getting dubs. If he were losing, nobody'd be talking about him. And unlike Jake Browning, he's getting dubs for a team we all thought was dog shit. Dead in the water, sleeping with the fishes, wearing cement shoes, fit to run an actual sanitation business, okay? The Giants started winning because DeVito hasn't thrown an interception in a month, and after taking 26 sacks in his first 5 starts, the Packers barely touched him on Monday night in the Meadowlands. He's doing the hard part first as a QB, making the right decisions with the ball. If he can be more consistent with his accuracy on timed throws, he might have a legit starting shot long-term in the NFL. This 13-yard completion to Wan'Dale Robinson on Monday night made me gabagool in my fucking pants.
Oh, God.
Oh, DeVito is no longer just a made guy, okay? He's the Giants capo, and he's executing Uncle Junior's advice about being the boss to perfection.
That's what being a boss is. You steer the ship the best way you know. Sometimes it's smooth, sometimes you hit the rocks. In the meantime, you find your pleasures where you can.
Usually he takes the clip out.
Now, we've seen a lot of surprise quarterback play this season, right? Josh Dobbs, Jake Browning, Bailey Zappi, hell, Joe Flacco.
Stupid fucking game.
Dobbs showed us relying on your third string guy might not be sustainable, which means it is up to DeVito and Browning to power through and change that narrative. All I ask is we don't define these underdog QBs just yet, because
Other people's definitions of you, sometimes they're more about making themselves feel better.
and while Tommy D was the star of the show on Monday night, second billing belonged to his agent. Who the hell is this guy, and what back room at a pizza parlor did he crawl out of to get here?
Take that shit outside. Don't disrespect the pizza parlor.
His name is Sean Stiletto. He's 45 despite dressing like he's from 1945, and he was actually a quarterback himself at Marist College before he founded SES Sports. He's also set to be inducted into the National Italian American Sports Hall of Fame alongside Vince Lombardi, Gino Marchetti, and of course, Joe DiMaggio. And on his website, you can see that he's also written what appears to be a children's book called Buddy and the Magic Ball, which is set in his hometown of Salem, Massachusetts. And believe it or not, he was kind enough to send me a passage from the book. Once upon a time, there was a fucking kid named Buddy, and he's playing football one day and he finds this fucking ball. But this ain't no regular ball, all right? Get this, it's a fucking magic ball, you know, like that little Gagoot's Harry Potter, except he doesn't have no fucking fruity wand or nothing. So, like I said, the ball's enchanted or some shit, and yeah, that's pretty much it. End of story. He's good with the fucking ball.
Take a look, it's in a book, a reading rainbow.
The power of words, the power of reading. It's truly magic, and I'd be lying if I said that didn't bring a tear to my eye, and I honestly cannot wait to read the sequel, the follow-up to that book called I Got Your Magic Ball Right Here, yo. Stellato also told the Salem News about a week ago, my grandfather immigrated from the coast of Italy. The boat they were on was called the SS Canopic, just like Tommy throws canoe picks. And they were in third class, the lowest possible means of ocean transport. They were shoemakers and came over with $14 to their name, which is pretty amazing. It's one thing to search for the American dream and another to actually take that leap of faith. You seriously can't make this shit up. That's the most Italian origin story I've ever heard, and it's a very American story. His grandfather was a shoemaker, and now his grandson represents the greatest Italian quarterback since Vinny Testaverde. Maybe Dan Marino, if we play our cards right. Stellato also said this about his wardrobe. The hat is kind of my thing. I love Rocky Balboa, Frank Sinatra. I feel like I'm, in a nutshell, part of the lineup. Now, comparing yourself to Rocky and Frank Sinatra might sound crazy, but you have to understand that this is true Italian bravado. And if anything, I think he was being humble. If DeVito keeps playing like this, which is to say serviceable football with a little bit of spice, he and his agent are going to make a few boxes of ziti. And now that the Giants are playing themselves out of the race for a top 5 pick, you might see a scenario where he's legitimately playing for the starting job in week 1 of 2024.
You got no fucking idea what it's like to be number one.
He's earned that chance. He's outplayed Daniel Jones this season at a mere fraction of the cost, and he turned around a Giants season that was looking like a Pompeii-level disaster through the first half of the season. And I think Brian Daboll loves him so much because he might have just saved his ass and job. The only thing that I see that can stop Tommy DeVito is the drain in his mom's kitchen sink.
My fucking hand is stuck down the drain, and I can't reach the fucking phone!
And yeah, I could have put more Sopranos references in the episode. I didn't as a favor to you. Thanks for watching That's Good Sports. Please subscribe here on YouTube for more football videos. Jesus, I make a lot of football videos.
Like Frank Sinatra said, the best is yet to come.